Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Brendan O'Leary, and I've spent most of my career looking for a better way to deploy software to production. I'm coming to you today from the East Coast of the United States, about 20 miles outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. And I want to talk to you today about the era of platforms. But before I even talk about that concept and why we're seeing this new era of platforms, I want to talk about something more basic: opportunity cost. When I think about opportunity cost, a couple of clear examples come to mind. The most personal one to me is represented by a dining room table. A few years ago, our family was growing a lot. We had 4 kids under the age of 7, and yes, that's too many kids. With the family growing, we quickly were outgrowing our current townhome, and we needed to find more space, and so we moved in 2016. Now, being that the house was a lot bigger, it came with a lot more room and rooms than we had before. And as a young family, we didn't have a whole bunch of furniture, so many rooms, and heck, probably maybe still a few of them, had little to no furniture in them. But the most obvious one was the dining room. It's kind of begging for a dining room table. Luckily, I consider myself as much an aspiring amateur carpenter as an aspiring amateur software engineer. And I told my wife of my grand plans to source some local wood from a tree that would otherwise have gone to waste and mill it myself and dry it and build the fantastic farmhouse table of really my dreams. The best laid plans, though. Flash forward a few months, having of course made no progress on the DIY front, and we walk into a furniture store looking for outdoor furniture, and there it was. The exact table I had in my mind's eye, and it was on sale. So I had this choice to make. Do I buy this table for what it would cost me in the nice lumber and parts, and for sure less than my time, or do I dig in my heels and say, no, I'm going to build our family's dining room table? I guess you can tell from the picture what I did. And I love that table almost as much as if I had made it myself. And instead of spending time in my workshop, probably cursing and hurting my thumb with a hammer, I now get to spend time around it with my kids. My daughter loves to build puzzles on it. My 5-year-old loves to draw. And when the whole family's in town, well, it also has a great leaf system that I wouldn't have been able to engineer myself, and we expand it and fit everyone around it. So maybe that opportunity cost seems obvious to a lot of people. I know if you ask my wife, she'll tell you it's very obvious, but there's a lot of things and kinds of costs that may be less obvious at first. Early in my career, I helped run a product and engineering group at a small medical software company. And it was at the time of great consolidation in the medical industry, and one that we stood to be able to take advantage of as we had great product market fit in a very tight vertical, women's imaging inside of radiology. But to do that, we had to consistently outpace our competition in terms of innovation. We were the market leader and the rest followed our lead, but we wanted to maintain that lead. So one day I'm walking back from my office to the CEO's office, and in between our offices was a server room, and I noticed the doors propped open. It's basically never a good sign if a server room door is propped open, right? And as I'm going past, I turn my head to the left and I look across the room, and I see at this little work desk in the room, one of our top engineers with a screwdriver and a server. That engineer was working on one of the most critical path new products we were trying to bring to market at the time, a first of its kind electronic patient questionnaire on a newly released device called an iPad. And here they were with a server on their lap and a screwdriver in the server. That server was the Redmine server, a tool we use to track progress and bugs and features and all that. And it had a hard disk go bad, as spinning disks are wont to do. Since it wasn't working, they didn't know what to work on next, so they were fixing the Redmine server. And it was that moment I had a real epiphany about the opportunity cost of hosting and running our own development tools. And right then and there, I decided to go out and spend money on tools on this thing called the cloud. It was still new at the time. We were going to move as much as possible out of that server room. I didn't want our lead engineer putting screwdrivers into servers anymore. I knew there had to be a better way. And that didn't mean to stop working completely to try and improve our own tool use and process. Of course, putting no effort into DevOps tools isn't going to be very successful. But at the same time, it's not a linear growth path. The more effort you put into spending time on acquiring, integrating, utilizing all these different tools, or even building tools of your own, eventually that work faces the law of diminishing returns. And eventually you fall off the cliff where your teams are getting less value of the time they are putting into it than the value they're getting out of the tools. And if your team is less effective because they have to spend time on a tool chain or finding data in various systems, then your stakeholders are going to suffer. What you want is happy stakeholders. My wife is very happy to have a dining room table, and even happier she didn't have to spend a month of Sundays taking care of kids while I built one. The actual goal, a table to eat at, value delivered to our users, a stable environment for our application to scale in, that's what's important. And we have to focus on that. The goal of any technology is or shouldn't be to use the technology for the sake of technology. Oh, well, that's how they do it in Silicon Valley isn't a great way to run your business or technology organization. And the goal of DevOps was never to acquire as many tools as we can. That can be fun. Again, back to the carpentry story. Of course, I like getting new and exciting tools, but it's the ones that I actually put to use to solve problems, to fix something that the family needs or that my wife's been asking me to fix. That's actually valuable outside of the tool itself. And for developers, that might be the difference between delivering new products or new features or putting a screwdriver in a server. And for operators, it might be the difference between working on decreasing MTTR, the mean time to recover a service, or increasing the organization's ability to deploy frequently, or putting a screwdriver in a server. And before you say it, no, it's not always screwdrivers and servers, but believe you me, every minute your team spends clicking around in the AWS console is just the modern day equivalent of putting a screwdriver in a server. And so this kind of thinking, this focus on results instead, doesn't just help your users, it helps everyone. Individual contributors on your teams want to work on new features. They want to work on system stability and true SRE tasks. And your engineering managers, they want people working on those things too, not spending their time messing with tools. So how can we put this into action and actually measure results? Well, a 7+ year research effort from DORA, the DevOps Research and Assessment Group, has been examining what separates teams who excel at delivering better software faster from teams who struggle to keep pace with them. The data show that focusing on enabling capabilities that allow organizations to measure and improve these 4 factors are directly attributed to the ability of organizations to improve overall, including areas like revenue or other organizational goals like human factors and job satisfaction. The first 2 metrics, lead time for changes and deployment frequency, consider the effectiveness and efficiency of the software development process. These provide insight into the speed of software delivery, how quickly teams can get changes into production. The other 2 metrics, change failure rate and mean time to restore services, speak to the second half of the pie, stability. How reliable are those changes that are coming into production? And how often do those changes result in a production instability? And since that number is never 0, how long does it take to restore services when something does go wrong? These 4 metrics can accurately measure a team's overall software and delivery operational performance. And measuring them in a way that we can set about improving them requires a tightly integrated system, a DevOps platform, where all the data is available in a single store. And this is what you should expect from all of your platforms. It's an ever-increasing desire to move software to market faster that has ushered in this era of platforms. And it's one we've been seeing for some time now. And I and many experts expect it to continue for some time, well into this next decade. As software has grown to eat the world, we've all been racing to catch up. But too often we focus only on the engineering side of software engineering, the tools and the amazing things we can do with code. We understand a lot of our problems can be solved with code. But in the end, it's not just the code that counts. What really counts, what the ethos of DevOps really is bringing together people, processes, and tools, and aligning those 3 dimensions along a common goal. But that alignment of process and tools does not come at the cost of understanding that people are involved. In fact, I would say the people are the most important part of people, process, tools, and I don't think I would be alone in that thinking. Platforms enable teams to do their best work together, to collaborate without boundaries, to aim for and achieve results together, to work efficiently without wasted time, to bring together diverse skill sets and include everyone in the process, to foster the sense of belonging and ownership. They allow you to iterate quickly, And the best platforms do all of this by enabling transparency, being as open about as much as possible, and bringing the threshold for collaboration lower and lower. Thank you so much. I'm glad you chose to spend some time with me today, and I'd love to answer your questions. I'll be around a little bit at the conference. You can also find me on Twitter. I'm at O'Leary Crew on both, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and stay safe.